If you're watching this right now, I want you to imagine this for a second, because this is exactly how the call came into me early this morning. It was still dark outside, coffee barely warm, and a retired school bus driver from Ohio named Linda left me a voicemail saying, "I don't know if this is true or not, but someone told me my Social Security could change on January 1st, and I'm scared to death I'll mess something up." And Linda, if you're watching, this video is for you, because what I'm about to explain affects millions of Americans just like you, people who worked their whole lives, who followed the rules, and who are now being told, sometimes quietly, sometimes confusingly, that a major Social Security rule change is coming in just 3 weeks, right on January 1st. And alongside it, there's a new stimulus-style update that could put real money into some pockets while leaving others wondering why they were left out. And today I'm going to walk you through all of it, calmly, clearly, and honestly, because this isn't about panic, it's about preparation, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to watch for, what not to do, and how to protect every dollar you've earned. So let's start with the big headline that's been circulating inside SSA offices and policy briefings for months, but is only now hitting the public conversation. Beginning January 1st, Social Security is implementing a rule change that directly affects how benefits are calculated, adjusted, and reviewed for retirees, SSI recipients, and SSDI beneficiaries, and this is happening at the same time as a renewed federal stimulus discussion tied to cost of living pressure, prescription drug costs, housing, and utilities. And while not everyone will qualify for additional payments, the structure of this update is unlike anything we've seen since the pandemic. ERA relief packages. And yes, it's absolutely normal if your first reaction is confusion or worry, because the way this has been communicated so far has been fragmented, technical, and frankly, not senior-friendly. So let me slow it down and talk to you like a neighbor sitting across the kitchen table, because the core of this January 1 rule change revolves around 3 things: income reporting thresholds, benefit recalculation timing, and overpayment enforcement. And if those sound like bureaucratic words, don't worry, I'm going to translate every single one into real-life terms, starting with income reporting, because this is where many people get tripped up without even realizing it. And according to internal SSA guidance memos circulated earlier this fall, starting January 1st, Social Security is tightening the window for reporting certain types of income changes, particularly part-time work, gig income, and irregular payments like settlement checks, inheritances, or even financial gifts from family members. And under the new rule, beneficiaries who receive SSI or SSDI will have a shorter reporting window before adjustments are automatically triggered by SSA's data matching systems. And this matters because the SSA has dramatically expanded its automated income verification tools, pulling data not just from IRS filings, but from payroll processors, state workforce databases, and even certain financial institutions. And what that means in plain English is this: if you earn a little extra money or receive a one-time payment and don't report it quickly enough, the system may assume it's ongoing income and adjust your benefit downward before you even have a chance to explain. And this is where the fear of overpayments comes in. Because under the January 1st change, SSA is also updating how aggressively it recovers overpayments. And this is a sensitive topic because so many of you have written to me saying you were told years later that you owed thousands of dollars back, money you didn't even know you weren't entitled to. And starting January 1st, the default withholding rate for certain overpayment recoveries is set to increase unless you proactively request a waiver or reduced repayment plan. And yes, that sounds harsh, but there is a reason behind it, and I want to be very clear here, because this is where misinformation spreads fast. This does not mean Social Security is cutting everyone's benefits across the board. It means they are enforcing existing rules more strictly and faster, using technology instead of human review, and that can feel scary if you're not prepared, especially for seniors living on fixed incomes where even a $100 change can mean the difference between groceries and skipping meals. Which brings us to the second part of this January 1st shift: benefit recalculation timing. Because for decades, many adjustments happened months after changes occurred, sometimes even annually. But under the new rule, recalculations for certain benefit categories will occur closer to real time, meaning increases or decreases could show up sooner. And for some people, this is actually good news, especially those whose income has dropped, whose medical expenses have increased, or whose household situation has changed. Because faster recalculations can mean faster increases, but only if the SSA has accurate information, which circles back to why reporting and documentation are more important than ever. And now let's talk about the part everyone's been whispering about, the stimulus update. Because while this isn't being officially branded as a stimulus check, the way it was in 2020 or 2021, the structure looks very similar. And according to multiple congressional staffers and budget analysts I've spoken with, there is a targeted relief package tied to January benefit updates that focuses on seniors and disabled Americans most impacted by inflation in housing, utilities, and healthcare. And this relief is expected to take the form of either one-time supplemental payments or temporary benefit boosts for qualifying individuals, with figures being discussed in the range of $400 to $1,200 depending on program eligibility, household income, and geographic cost of living factors. And I want to stress something important here, because this is where rumors explode online. Not everyone will receive this, and it is not automatic for all Social Security recipients, but for those who qualify, payments could begin as early as late January or early February. And eligibility is expected to prioritize SSI recipients, low-income retirees receiving Social Security retirement benefits below a certain threshold, and SSDI beneficiaries with high documented medical expenses. And the reason this matters now, during this 3-week countdown, is because eligibility will likely be determined based on information already on file as of January 1st, meaning what SSA has recorded about your income, living situation, and expenses at that moment could determine whether you're included or excluded. And that's why this video isn't about fear. It's about action, because there are simple steps you can take right now to make sure your records are accurate. And before I walk you through those steps, I want to address the emotional side of this, because I know many of you are tired of rules changing, tired of feeling like the goalposts move just when you think you've figured things out, tired of worrying every time the mail comes or your bank app updates. And I hear you, and you're not wrong to feel that way, because the system often communicates in a way that feels cold and confusing. But here's the truth that doesn't get said enough. Social Security is not going away. Your benefits are not disappearing overnight. And while these changes are real, they are navigable. And the people who fare best are not the ones who panic, but the ones who understand the rules just well enough to stay ahead of them. And that's exactly what we're doing here, together. So let's get practical for a moment, because between now and January 1st, there are 3 key things you should consider doing. And I'm saying consider, not panic do, because every situation is different. First, if you've had any income changes in the last year, even small ones, it may be worth reviewing what SSA has on file, either through your My Social Security account or by calling your local office. And yes, I know calling can be frustrating, but even confirming that your records are accurate can give you peace of mind. Second, if you receive SSI or SSDI and have had changes in living arrangements, like moving in with family, changes in rent, or shared expenses, those details matter more under the new rules because they affect benefit calculations and eligibility for supplemental relief. And third, if you've received any notices about overpayments, reviews, or redeterminations, do not ignore them, because starting January 1st, timelines shorten, and the window to respond before automatic actions kick in may be smaller than you're used to. And now I want to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in mainstream coverage, but comes up constantly in your emails and comments, and that's trust, because many of you ask, how do I know what's real anymore? And that's a fair question, because there are scams, fake letters, robocalls, and misleading headlines everywhere. And during times of real policy change like this, scammers become more aggressive, pretending to be SSA representatives, asking for personal information, or promising early stimulus access. And let me be crystal clear. Social Security will not call you out of the blue asking for your Social Security number, bank information, or payment to secure benefits. And any legitimate updates will come through official channels, usually mail or your verified online account. And if you ever feel unsure, stop, breathe, and verify before responding, because urgency should never override your safety. And now, because this channel is about real talk, I want to address the question that's probably sitting in the back of your mind. Why is this happening now? Why January 1st? Why this combination of stricter rules and potential relief? And the honest answer is that we're at a crossroads moment because inflation pressures, budget constraints, and demographic shifts are colliding. More Americans are retiring than ever before. The trust fund conversations are heating up, and policymakers are trying to balance fiscal responsibility with political reality. And that often results in packages that include both enforcement and assistance, tighter oversight paired with targeted relief. And while that may sound contradictory, it's actually how many large federal programs evolve over time. And understanding that context helps explain why you're seeing both headlines about rule changes and whispers of new payments at the same time. And as your guide through this, my goal is not to tell you everything will be perfect, but to make sure you're not caught off guard, because surprises are what hurt the most, especially when you're living on a fixed income. And as we count down these 3 weeks to January 1st, I want you to remember something important. You are not alone in this. Millions of Americans are navigating the same questions, the same worries, the same paperwork. And communities like this one exist so we can share accurate information, calm each other down when headlines get dramatic, and focus on what we can control. And speaking of control, let's circle back briefly to the stimulus-style update, because I know many of you are asking, should I expect money? And the most honest answer is maybe, but only if you fit the criteria that's being discussed, and those criteria are still being finalized, but they consistently point toward lower-income seniors, disabled individuals with higher care costs, and those living in areas where inflation has hit hardest. And payments, if approved as structured, would likely be issued the same way you receive your regular benefits: direct, deposit, or direct express card, without a separate application. But again, that depends on your information being current and accurate, and that's why these next 3 weeks matter more than the next 3 days of worrying. And before I wrap this up, I want to say something directly to you, the person watching this late at night, maybe alone, maybe feeling anxious, maybe wondering if you did something wrong or if you're about to lose something you depend on, and I want you to hear this clearly. Needing help, relying on Social Security, and paying attention to these updates does not make you weak. It makes you responsible. You earned these benefits, and staying informed is one of the best ways to protect them. And as we move closer to January 1st, I'll continue to break down updates, clarify rumors, and answer your questions as clearly as I can. And if you found this helpful, consider staying connected, not because of me, but because information is power, especially when it's delivered with respect and clarity. And in the meantime, take a breath, finish your coffee or tea, and remember that while rules may change, your worth does not. And together, we'll get through this countdown one informed step at a time.